Hello, my name is Ramona McKee with Quick2Stitch.com.
What's up? It's Jeremy Picker from Amber Creative.
And you are listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs RG, Regular Guy, and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
The best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorators.
Prepare for the wild.
All right, welcome into the show. It is Friday, May 10th, 2024. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at Our Success Group. And my mission is to inspire you to build a business that you love with a proper foundation. And I love that we get to talk about all those things, right? Like whether we're bringing in guests, that to me is what Two Regular Guys has always been about, Terry. And so to be able to fulfill my mission every Friday with two guys that I call dear friends and all the amazing friends that we get to come in has been a real dream come true. So feeling very grateful and blessed today.
Awesome. Very good.
I don't want to use the hashtag blessed, but you have to, I think. Anyways, today, Terry, we've got part 2 of our program about if I knew now kind of idea here. And so last week we kind of talked about that. If I knew now, what would I do differently in starting a business? Just kind of some more overall business tips. We covered a lot of ground based on the decorated side of things. And today we're going to extend that more into the equipment side of things. And so to make sure that we are covering the gamut of equipment that's out there, because I don't think that either of us could probably talk intelligently about embroidery equipment. Right? We've seen it, we've stood next to it, but outside of somebody saying, here, put this thing on here and push this button, that's about what I know about embroidery. So we brought the expert in, and Eric is going to be joining us on this side of the camera here a little bit later today. And so he's going to still push the buttons for us. So he's that good. He really is that good. And so we're going to talk about all sorts of things, Terry. I mean, obviously you're going to lean on the screen printing side of things. I'm going to talk about sublimation. I think we're all probably going to talk about all of them, to be honest with you, but yeah. DTG, DTF, and even heat presses, right? Heat applied graphics. If somebody has questions about, let's say, cutters, for example, we could go there, right? I think we've got a good enough general knowledge, and we're looking forward to hearing from the regulators about their, what would you do if differently this time around when it comes to your equipment and supplies. So I think it's going to be a great discussion today, Terry.
Absolutely. I love the host shows, and I think I would love to hear from guests about what they would do differently equipment-wise. By the way, everyone, this is part 2, the number 2. make sure you stay until the very end and get your helping of the secret sauce. Aaron's going to be stirring up the sauce, giving us a how-to about creating an offer people will understand. So looking forward to hearing that, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm excited. It was something that I whipped together very quickly, but it's something I've talked about in the past, and I'm like, man, yeah, I think we could bring that here. And if you stay tuned to the very end, there's also a little bonus at the end to tune in a future episode as well. So,
very nice.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this going, right? I mean, we're only at 545-ish episodes, so we've got at least another 500 under our belt, I would say. So,
or 460.
Yeah, do the math. We're going to 1,000 at least, people. So buckle up. All right. Speaking of buckling up, we are excited to have a friend of ours back, and her and Terry have coordinated, so they look really good today, and are. But this is a great friend of ours, and she's been such a blessing to this industry, all the way back to her former life, and now that she's, for lack of a better term, in charge of Screen Printing Magazine. So we've got Marcia Derryberry joining us in just one moment, Terry, when you are ready to bring us the news this week.
All right.
Well, thank you guys. And gee, Aaron, I'm getting a little weepy. Thank you. Happy Friday, friends. It's me again, Marcia Derryberry, editor-in-chief of Screen Printing and Big Picture magazines. So this week, I kind of wanted to tell you apparel decorators some of the neat things that two of your apparel manufacturers are doing to bring goodwill to both people and the planet. Now, this is nothing new, of course. So many people in the industry. It's such a neat group of people who are dedicated to giving back once they get successful enough to be able to do so. Big organizations, but also a lot of little ones that really make a difference in real people's lives immediately. So, the first one up. Our good friends at Gildan are up to their old antics again and leading the charge on philanthropic initiatives and corporate stewardship. So this time it's about the fact that they have donated advanced surgical equipment to Mario Catarina Rivas Regional Hospital, which is in the northern and western Honduras area. Believe it or not, get this. They have donated $230,000 to a newly renovated pediatric room at the hospital. This hospital supports children that have been awaiting surgery, and the donation contributes to making healthcare more accessible to children and communities in Honduras. Gildan said it's committed to this in-kind investment in collaboration with the Honduran Pediatric Association, Valdesula chapter, who identified the urgent need for surgeries among hundreds of Honduran children. The donated equipment will affect children requiring surgery, and within its first 6 months of use is expected to help reduce Catarina Rivas Hospital's backlog of operations by a whopping 50%. So kudos, hats off, once again, Gildan and so many other people, manufacturers and suppliers in the industry, and then down to the screen print shop owners. You guys giving back is so cool. So I told them I had to go because I was sweating in my office. But I have one more for you, and I'll talk fast because that's my specialty. This is from one of everybody's favorite hat companies with their new line, Infinity Her. The team has teamed up with a nonprofit to celebrate volunteers during National Volunteer Week. They supplied merchandise to something called Samaritan Shops and also presented caps to volunteers as a token of appreciation for the week. They're owned by Infinity Product Group. That's the parent company of the women's headwear brand Infinity Her. And this collaboration, the Samaritan Community Center is a nonprofit organization based in Arkansas. So this is where I'm saying, they're really reaching the grassroots efforts and helping some people in some smaller organizations that sometimes aren't getting the support they need from the bigger things. This partnership aims to support those in need and honor the remarkable volunteers contributing to the community, coinciding with National Volunteer Week, which was last month, April 21st through the 27th. The Samaritan House was founded in 1989 as a nonprofit initially focused on providing clothing to individuals in needs. But over the years, it realized it needed to expand its scope to address various community challenges, including hunger, leading it to its rebranding as Samaritan Community Center. Currently, the operation offers 2 locations in Northwest Arkansas, offering initiatives such as the Samaritan Cafe, which provides hot meal, and Samaritan Farm, which cultivates produce for the cafe and market. So that's pretty cool. Infinity extending its support to the Samaritan Shop, which is 2 resale stores that offer newer, gently used clothing, household items, and furniture. They play a vital role in generating revenue for the Samaritan Community Center, with 1 out of every $3 in operating revenue sourced from shop sales. Donations enable the distribution of free clothing vouchers to individuals in need, totaling a cool $40,307 last year. So that's it for now. All these, both of these articles can be found on our website, screenprintingmag.com. Also, keep your eyes open in your emails and social media. We're about to go live with our new May-June issue of both magazines. Have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll see you in a few weeks.
Well,
Thanks.
that was some good news from Gildan there.
Yeah, it's nice to hear some good news from them. They've had a rough go of it, based
Nothing
on
about the
other
board
news.
of directors, nothing about
Yeah,
listing of
that
stocks.
was very good. Yeah. Well, thanks to Marcia for sweating it out for us here, and hopefully she can get to a cooler space quickly. And and also I wanted to apologize to Marcia for I always forget Big Picture Magazine too, so I should have mentioned that as well. But she's in charge of both of those wonderful publications. So, like she said, stay tuned, and the next issues are coming out. So, yeah, I'm always looking to see those come across my email and go dive in and see what the latest and greatest in there is. So, check that out at screenprintingmag.com.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, Terry. Well, let's say good morning to some folks that were tuned in here. That is, if you are tuned in live, let us know that you're here. And yeah, we're like Terry mentioned earlier, we're excited to hear from you guys as to, just tips on equipment and what you would do differently, what you've learned along your journey. And that's what we're hoping to share here today with you guys. But Chuck was tuned in right at the top of the hour. Good morning, gentlemen. And Chuck, if you could start using the quotes on that for us, it would make us feel much more comfortable. And then we've got JAB Embroidery tuned in, and also want to shout out to them. They made a really nice comment on our show last week over on our YouTube channel, and appreciate them saying that they really enjoyed the show. So we really enjoy you guys commenting and checking in and sharing your thoughts too. And then Ramona said when we were trying to figure out how many episodes to 1,000, it's too early for math.
Oh.
All right. And we've got Michelle checking in this morning too, Terry. So
Very nice.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, we also have before we bring Eric in here, though, we've got a dad joke. We've always got a dad joke. For some reason, we don't forget that. Sometimes I forget the secret sauce, but the dad jokes seem to happen just without any prompting. So, are you ready for that, Terry?
I am. You have a line in the dad joke. Did you see?
I'm ready. I'm totally ready for my line. I can do this. I know it. All right, here we go, Eric.
All right, Aaron. The doctor said, "Do you want to hear the good news or the bad news?"
Always the good news, Terry. Always the good news.
Okay, the good news. We're naming a disease after you.
Oh, wait, I know what the bad news is. Okay.
All right. Before we dive in, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We need your voices still. We would love to have the regulators participate in our show intros. Go to decorators.ink./intro and read just a few sentences to be a part of every show. Don't be left out. We want everybody to participate, and we are always looking for new guests. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2, the number 2, regular guys, to book a future episode, or email us at info@tworegularguys.com with your show ideas. If you are listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. We would appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, wherever you do your podcast listening. And as Aaron said, if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and your questions. And hey, maybe share, what was I thinking when I bought XYZ piece of equipment when I started my business? I'd like to hear that.
Okay. Yeah, we'd like to hear that. I don't know how deep we're going to go into the name calling here, but we'll I mean,
XYZ, is that a real brand?
Yeah, I'm going to avoid that one. So, but no, you guys can. So that's the cool part, right? If you have maybe something that like Terry said, what were you thinking when? What was I thinking? Don't ever get this, right? So that's okay. We'll just read the comments. So I think we'll be safe.
I was thinking more along the lines of, did I really need a bagging machine when I bought started my business?
When I have no customers, no, and yeah,
I have nothing to put in these bags, but man,
Yeah.
it's fast.
It is fast. No, that's a good point. I like that. Okay, I appreciate you clarifying, because I was like, oh no, we're going to start trashing all these brands. No, we're not going to do that. All right. No, again, Terry, yeah, it's just like, what would you do differently? What did you learn? Because if we can share that learning together, yes, if I knew then what I know now, Eric is helping keep me on track here. So speaking of Eric, I think we need to bring him on. There he is. He came in to save the day.
Need to jump into the right position, but here I am.
Good morning,
Welcome
Eric.
in. All right. Well, we're going to get on with the show here then.
Yeah.
So before we dive into some of these equipment things, Eric, you had really brought some great points in last week, and we had one extra one that we didn't get a chance to get to. And again, we don't want to make this a 3-part show per se, but let's just hit on that real quick, and then we can start leaning into the actual equipment. So, Eric,
Sure.
what was that last point from last week?
I think one of the points was that people often bring in equipment before they really have a market for it. And so I would love for everybody to make use of the services that offer decoration options so you can ease into new methods. So if you're an embroiderer and you want to do print, if you're a printer, you want to do embroidery, there is nothing wrong or bad about outsourcing. I think we have gotten to the point where people aren't feeling that way, but there was this period of time where I had a lot of decorators coming to me where they're like, I got to get into embroidery. My clients want it. And I'm asking them, like, how many times are you hearing that a day? Well, how much embroidery do they want? Do you have anyone on your staff that knows anything about these machines at all? Are you ready to staff up if you don't? And those questions were always kind of hit with, blank stares. They're like, well, I need to, right? I'm not a real decorator if I just don't do it myself. Well, that's not true. So I think a lot of folks really should think about, we talked about the kind of the dream team last time around, and co-opetition, as we say. It's good to start by either dealing with co-opetition, which is like sending jobs that don't belong to you somewhere else so you can do what you're best at to some degree, or just digging into services. We've got these services. We've got people making, various kinds of transfers and people doing printing themselves that we can subcontract stuff out. We can do some outsourcing and end up building that clientele before we start bringing in a ton of equipment. I know equipment sellers are probably gripping a little bit when I say that. I'm not saying don't buy the equipment. I'm saying know who you're selling to before you buy the equipment, and maybe start out by bringing some of that stuff in-house or leaning into it slowly. I mean, like we're going to talk about it later, so I don't want to preempt everything.
Yeah.
But it's like with embroiderers, I'm always saying, hey, you want to expand into print? Buy a heat press first. It opens you up to so many options of the things you can print, transfers, and people trying to
build a market for it, Eric, I think is what you're kind of saying. And here's what I would say too, and Terry can expand on this. I mean, we're sitting here with a guy that spends his days, his 9 to 5 selling equipment. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard stories from Terry where he's talked people out of it, right? And so if he was the predatory salesman that I try to make him out to be, he wouldn't do that. But again, that's why Terry's had such longevity. That's why Terry's so well respected, even amongst his competitors, right? So I think there's something really important that people need to understand with that, right? When you're ready, and Terry, you I think even said last week about a story where somebody had come back 3 years later after you had talked them out of it, basically. So take your take on that, Terry.
Well, yeah, because I think that you want to buy from somebody that wants you to be successful, not somebody that wants to sell you equipment. And I hear sad stories literally every day where somebody goes, the guy wouldn't leave me alone until I bought the equipment. Now I can't get him on the phone. And that's part of your research is how do you service your customers? And Eric, you when you said that about everybody keeps saying I need to get it in embroidery, I was thinking, is it everybody, or is it that same guy who every week comes and picks up and says, you should do embroidery?
Well, I think that's the thing. Isn't it always the squeaky wheel that gets the grease? Sometimes, and I'll say this, in the other side of the industry, now that I do a lot of software support, there are times where we're like, oh, we need to add this feature because I keep hearing about it. And it's like, no, we've got tickets for the same 2 people who keep on asking for the same thing that no one else wants. Right. We're just hearing from them a lot. Like it's, and they're loud and they sound very upset. So we want to ameliorate that right now. We want to say, okay, let's make it right. We got to get that in. It's not always for everybody. That you may find it's not for you. The one that I always bring up is we were in a big multi-decoration shop. You guys know that I've applied vinyl to cars. I've done windows. I've done, all manner of print and heat press and sublimation and embroidery. We were a big multi-decoration house, and most of that made sense. what we finally kind of divested ourselves of was wide format printing and signs. We were doing all in-house banners and signs. We still did simple vinyl banners. But then when it came to full color printing of wide format banners and signs, we finally just got with a sign company that had a billboard size printer. Why were we involved in that? We had no business in it. We subcontracted to them. We had a little bit of money in it on ourselves. Plus we were doing art prep that we could charge for, and we had them do the production. And there was nothing wrong with it. And that relationship lasted 4 decades. It's like, that's, once you get in there, it just makes a lot more sense with some people being tooled for that job. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
In the end, you can choose that I want to be about this part of the decoration world, and the rest of that is not me, and that's okay. There's a world for that. I mean, I love one-stop shops because I worked in them. But at the same time, there is a place where you finally realize you're like, okay, I'm out to egg decorating. How did I get here? I'm like, I'm in a new world. It's Easter, and I'm sitting here with like a wax pen. What? I know I said I could print on anything, but I don't think I meant anything. Like, you can get too far afield. And
that reminds me of Terry's story about the guy that was the on anything. Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, speaking of Terry's story, let's turn over the stage / microphone to Terry here, and we're going to dive in to the equipment side of this discussion on with screen printing. So, Terry, where do we start?
Yeah, absolutely. And I started my first screen printing business 4 decades ago, but obviously things have changed, but not a lot of things have changed. So, and as a side note, I have a recommended list of things to buy at terrycombs.com. If you're starting a screen printing business, there's no brands, anything like that. It's just, here are the pieces that you need to get started. And then at the bottom, I have a wish list. Here are the things that, hey, if you've got a pretty good budget, here's some things that eventually you will be buying. But you can go there and get an idea of what you need to start that screen printing business on the side or full time. One of the things I did was when I started in business, I bought a 4-color press because I was planning on doing a lot of 1 and 2 color presses today, or 1 and 2 color prints. But today, I would buy a 6-color press. And why? Am I going to do a lot of 6-color work? Probably not. But with a 6-color press, I have the potential of doing basically anything. In my screen printing classes, I always say, if you buy a 6-color press, I could take a photo of this class and I could print that photorealistic, screen print it on a black t-shirt with a 6-color press. So, and hey, again, the bread and butter, 1 and 2 and 3 color. That's where screen printers make their money. Jim's Towing Service, phone number on the back, right? Yep. And but say I have a new employee, I could set up 6 1-color jobs, have the paperwork sitting in the screen, and say, okay, here are the next 6 jobs, and we've already been practicing doing 1-color prints. Have at it and start with this one and be working clockwise around the machine. So, and really, again, it's for future. 4-color press is all well and good, but what if you think, I want to do simulated process. I want to do some high-end type printing with a 6-color press. You're capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Aaron,
I just wanted to, when I saw that in there, because I've been hearing this about 6-color press, that it's really where people need to probably start or, kind of get into. I don't know exactly what the difference in price is, how much different a 4-color press is priced to a 6-color press is priced, but I was kind of blown away. So when we were in Tinley Park, I actually sat in on Dane did the night shift that show, and he was basically going through Photoshop and screen print artwork and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there going, okay, this is 2024. I've been hearing for 20 plus years, 24 years.
Oh, I know Terry.
Yeah. Well, we should have a 6-color press, and half of the people in that class had a 4-color press. Right. And so, Dane's trying to show them high-end separations, and they're going, okay, well, how do I do that 4 colors? And he's like, could you? Yeah. Is it going to look great? No. Right. And so, it's still happening today. And again, I understand that you got to get in where you can get in, but I think figuring out a way to make that investment up into that 6-color, because like you said, then that opens up all those possibilities.
Exactly.
And if you're going to go spend the time and money to sit down with Dane for 3.5, 4 hours to learn how to do this stuff, but then you go back and your equipment can't actually do it, wow, right? I mean, so, but once you've made that purchase, it's not like you can add 6 more. You're not going to add arms onto that thing, right? I mean,
right.
I haven't seen that.
You're going to buy another press. Exactly.
Yeah. So anyhow, that was the quick point I wanted to make.
And I say to people in the class, listen, if you already have a 4-color press, that's going to do most of what you're going to do every day. This is talking about future potential and invest a little bit more now for that future potential. So
like that.
my next point is I would purchase 4 or 5 different screen mesh counts, depending on my marketplace, determining which of those mesh counts I'm going to buy, rather than me trusting that equipment sales rep who said to me many years ago, all you need are 110 mesh screens in your shop. That is horrible advice. And here's why I bring it up. It's still advice that you get out on the internet right now today. It's still advice you get from some of your suppliers today. I don't have a class, and you guys know I've been teaching screen printing classes for 20 years. I don't have a class where someone doesn't say, well, I was told just to buy 110. And so it is just poor information passing on now for generations, So, hey, can I make it work with a 110? I can kind of make it work, but that print quality is never going to be like if I were using my base mesh count as a 160. I did a secret sauce in this already. But and the reason I'd have different mesh counts is I used to print a lot of puff ink. Why? Because my competitors didn't print a lot of puff ink. Well, I need like an 86 mesh to print puff to lay down enough ink. So there are, if you go to your supplier, they'll have 15 different mesh counts for textile screen printing. You're going to use 4 or 5 of those, but you need to have a variety of mesh counts in your shop. So
nice. Yeah. Good point.
Along the lines of screens, I would have bought a tension meter sooner. So a tension meter is basically it's a weighted scale, and it has a dial on the front, and you sit it on a screen mesh, and it will tell you the tension in newtons. Newton, like the guy with gravity.
Right. Yeah.
Not the Fig Newton, named after Newton, Massachusetts. So what does that mean to me? Because the better my screen tension, 25 to 35 newtons, the better my print's going to be, the print quality. I'm not going to have smearing. I'm not going to have where the screen mesh sticks to the screen or sticks to the garment when I lift it up and cause a fisheye print or a fisheye look to my print on the shirt. So what I'm getting at here with the previous point and this point about the tension meter is it is screen printing. It's all about the screen. If you get the screens right, you are 90% there. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, but it's not. If you have the right screen mesh and you have the proper tension, most of your other issues fall by the wayside. This is where people get tripped up. And along those lines is holding on to those screens too long, because every time you print with a screen, it loses a little bit of tension. And people were like, well, man, they're $25, $30 a piece. I don't want to be buying more. It's a commodity. It's like buying a gallon of ink.
Yeah.
It has a life cycle, and they need to go by the wayside. Yeah. If you're using static aluminum frames, most of your suppliers will buy those back from you. They just recycle them to the aluminum. But then you're at a point where you're paying maybe $15 for a new screen. So you're starting that cycle. But I can't emphasize enough, it is all about the screen in screen printing.
Yeah. And Terry, and like you said, understanding that it's a commodity, I think it's key, right? Because if you're including that into your pricing,
Exactly.
then yeah, you're going to change out your screens when it's time, right? And you're going to invest in that tension meter to know that. But if you're like, I have to hold on to these things forever because I didn't plan that into my pricing, guess what? You're going to end up with really crappy prints, and you're going to end up spending more money because you've got all these issues that you're trying to band-aid now, right?
Exactly. You're
I think
100% correct.
It was a super similar thing for embroidery, at least, though it's not about that commodity of as far as the materials going that way, though needles can be that way. Most people change needles when there's a problem. And so sometimes I'm like, hey, you really know what's going on, and you know you've had your needles on for a while and you're about to start a brand new job that's important. Hey, bobbins and needles, if you think you're getting close to the end of a bobbin before you run a jacket back, toss it and throw a new one. And yeah, sometimes you have to do that. But the big deal with me is always sampling. And it's the same thing where I'm like, I don't have the time and the money to be sampling every job before I do it. I'm like, do you have the time on your 12 head equipment to waste like 12 brand new Carhartt jackets? Because you're going to do that the first time you do this without sampling. It's like the prep is part of it. Yeah. And you're right. You have to price it in. The prep, the materials that it takes to do that good job, the proper job that needs to be done, it just has to be part of it. But you're right. You have to time that stuff out, and you have to most certainly include it in your costs.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, Terry, what else you got there?
Today I would buy a dryer built to grow with. And now in my situation, I had a space and a budget limitation, but my dryer would basically handle one manual press when I got started. If you can afford it, buy a dryer that you can grow with, because before you know it, you're going to want to add another press. And when you add that other press, well, by gosh, if you bought a dryer too small, you are buying another dryer. And so,
can't just turn it up.
just go faster and hotter.
Turn up the speed. Or and okay, I have one more.
We joke about that though, but seriously, people that right? Oh my gosh, I can't get the shirts on there fast enough. Just turn it up. But then they don't do the work at the other end to test their cure, like you talk about. I mean, go back to Terry's secret sauces. You've got all the tricks you need for screen printing here. So,
exactly right. And sometimes we have limitations. Sometimes, hey, this is all the money I have, so you got to do what you got to do. But man, if you can buy with the intention of growing, if you do good work and deliver on time, everybody do good work and deliver on time, you're going to need that additional press before you know it. So I have one more quick one because I see I've already gobbled up half our time. I
don't think it's you, Terry, but that's okay.
I would have a short run option in my shop. And I have said this for 20 years. The first time I ever saw the T-Jet print, I said, oh my gosh, I would buy one of these in a second if I were still an active screen printer, because this is for all those orders that I'm turning away. This is for the family reunion. I have 17 people. Susie's a 2.4. My Uncle Bob's a 4X. And you got to turn that order down if you're a screen printer, or take it and lose money. So I would probably have a DTG printer. And here's why. Because, I'm a screen printing snob, and DTG prints look more like a screen print. But I also have the option of doing DTF on that same printer. And I don't necessarily have to run it every day, depending on the machine you buy. So it could sit over in the corner for a week, 2 weeks, and I could come back to it and do that 5-piece order, that 1-piece order. As we've said on this show many times, everybody, it is an Amazon world. I want one. I want it now. I want it custom. So you're giving away business if you are not servicing that end of the marketplace. So awesome. That's my almost brief list of screen printing things that I would buy.
That's some really good stuff, Terry. Yeah, I think there's some really good points in there. And so before we get to embroidery here, Eric, Terry Saunders jumped in and said, good morning, gentlemen. Jumping in to watch the podcast and to wish Lou Man happy 13th birthday. So
oh my gosh, happy birthday, Louis.
Happy birthday, man.
And then Ramona says, talking about what Eric was mentioning, so this could be a great segue for you here, Eric. I just pulled test files off the machine, sample people. It's like baking a cake. You need to build your recipe. So with that being said, Eric, talk to us about embroidery. Enlighten Terry and I, please.
I think the funny thing is when I'm listening to Terry talk about equipment, a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is on the same vein. I think a ton of what we're actually talking about are universals about what it means to own equipment, what it means to build an audience for the equipment. How do you handle different size jobs, things like that, right sizing your job. So for embroidery, the first thing I'm going to do though, I'm going to go back to my roots here. The very first time I probably recorded something like this for the show was giving people like 5 tips. We're doing 5 tips for stuff. And I'm like, okay, here's where it started, was me saying, this is what I talk about buying a machine. And it boiled down to one thing. So originally when I came in, it was always about used versus new. And then it started to be about brands versus brands. And invariably what I end up at is that brand name recognition has never been as important to me as total cost of ownership. And when I talk about total cost of ownership, what I'm really talking about is support. So every time somebody says, is it this brand or that brand? For most folks, for most of the people who are out there buying their equipment, depending on the kind of work you do. Now, yes, there are machines that do better at a different kind of work. You should definitely be asking people. Yeah, have you ever seen me put this somewhere?
I saw that in the outline, and now I know what it means. So
total cost of ownership. The reason I'm harping on it, though, is that so many people will buy an embroidery machine because they like the person who sold it to them, because somebody said that was the right one to do hats, and that's the only one that ever does hats, which is semi-ludicrous. Most of the good ones are going to be doing hats just fine. Yes, they're different. I'm not going to say they're never different. They do have some different features. But what's going to cause you the most immediate heartache is when the machine stops working, because they will. That's not a will they or won't they. That's a when will they. They will stop working eventually in their duty cycles. When that happens and you can't fix it yourself, and you find out, you're like, oh, like me, I'm in, Albuquerque, which is kind of like a landlocked island because we're in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert. We've got to fly people out. I have to fly out a technician. I've got to pay for their hotel stay and their travel on top of getting them to work on the machine and get parts. When that happens, are they going to have a service sweep that goes through my area where I can maybe partner up? By the way, you want to get to be good friends with other decorators in your area? Be an embroiderer, because pretty soon, if you're in an area that's remote, you're going to have to go talk to all the other shops who have machines and go, are you sure you don't need somebody so we can try and split the costs of having this technician out? Can we try and split the travel costs? Because otherwise, you're going to have somebody fly out to fix your machine. And that's part of the total cost of ownership. What happens when it breaks down? Who's going to be out here to fix it? How long is that going to take? How long will I be down? And is there support around that? Now, there's also the other kinds of support. And I always say this, official support is important. What can the company teach you? How much are they going to help you with things? That's important. Unofficial support. How many people are also using this machine out there in the world? So if you ask a question, let's say in everybody's favorite Facebook group or Reddit thread or whatever it is you're doing, like wherever you are social, if you ask somebody, hey, do you guys know how to use this weird brand name machine? And no one else knows what it is but you. That's also a kind of lack of support. You want to have a vibrant community if you can. So whenever somebody says, okay, this brand, that brand, of the major brands that we know, the ones that are on the trade show floor, I'm generally happy to say they'll do most embroidery decently. I should assume we are good. They're on the trade show floor. Most of them are pretty good. The top names that we all know, the ZSKs, the Tajimas, the Baradins, those are very good machines. We also have like SWF, and we have Happy. We have all of these other machines on the floor. And then we also have, admittedly, there's the Chinese import machines that a lot of people badmouth, but honestly, we're doing flat embroidery and nothing that's all that taxing. Almost all these machines are going to do left chests on polo shirts. They're going to do, they're going to do flat work and I always say caps and flats are the way that I split this stuff up. They're going to do that great. You're doing lots of structured hats with foam. Maybe you worry about that. But even in that realm, the thing that's going to cause you the first heartache is always going to be, how do I fix it? Who's going to support it? What happens when things go wrong? So if you're not happy with the support from the company you buy it from, the rest of the functionality it has is going to be nothing to you when that thing stops running. When the needles stop moving and you don't have any support, that's going to be the worst thing for you. So I just say, so if I knew then what I knew now, the big thing would be ask more questions from my vendor, be really sure who I'm buying from, and ask the hard questions, the questions you don't want to ask, like, what's it going to cost for me to get a tech from you guys out here? Do you have techs available for this machine? Am I going to get support when something goes wrong? don't let someone go before you ask those questions, because it's fine to talk about the new tensioning systems. It's awesome to talk about the presser feet and whether or not they lift automatically, or how you do settings, whatever it is, management systems, all the other cool stuff that they do. If you don't know what's going to happen when things go wrong, that's business. That's business order number one. Next thing is, and this is very much like screen printing, when you're looking for those abilities, you really want to think about what you're going to offer in your throughput. Everybody says, I'm going to embroider everything. Well, okay, cool. Everything is nothing. They're the same. That means you don't have anything to target. If you know for sure your clientele is heavy, like I said, into structured hats with 3D foam and multimedia, now we got to worry a little bit more about how well the machine handles hats. Otherwise, you might not have to worry as much. If what you are doing is something simple, if you're a monogramming shop, most machines are going to be fine for you. If all you do is names and personalization in a single color, and that's all you're ever going to do, okay, I'm still like Terry, where I'd say, make room for yourself to grow out of that. Make room for yourself to have more capability. However, it's about the clientele. It's not which machine do you have to be a real embroiderer. It's which machine fits the thing that I want to do, the market that I'm trying to go after, or that I've built, hopefully through some outsourcing. And after that, I think that's the thing. Most people are going to say, okay, you didn't really talk about machines or setup. The thing is, these are the actual stumbling blocks I find people hitting. Very infrequently do I find somebody who's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't find any machine to buy. They almost always have done the initial investigation. They know the things that we always say, which is, hey, if you start with small home equipment, chances are you'd rather be on something larger with a larger sewing field. It's very much like the 6-color. The bigger sewing fields you can get is probably going to make you happier always. You try and start from little home equipment, the likelihood is you might have trouble with that. Like, that's something that you're going to grow out of immediately. Commercial ventures will sometimes use some stuff, but little single needle home machines you buy from Walmart are really not meant for commercial ventures. That's not what they're for. You're going to be happy with a tubular machine that you put a hoop on, but that's something that everybody already knows. The home market, the high-end crafters are all using tubular machines that look like the commercials I started on. Like, a lot of that's already been said. So that's one of those things. It's more about knowing that those capabilities. And conversely, I'm going to say this. There are people out there where their businesses make sense for those to have them. There's people I know who've done retail activations where they're doing like monogramming and personalization on shop floors in retail. And they use those little home style machines because you can cart them in and out, and they're easy to get repaired, and they're light. And they cart them in and out off of the trade or floors, or they cart them in and out out of the retail stores. So it's really about knowing what you're trying to do and getting that fit for the right offerings for the right clientele. Most people, you're going to start out with single head or small multi-head machines, often both. It's really great to have a single head and a multi-head, so you can always do sampling or personalization at the same time. So if you get a single head, don't toss that when you go get your multi. When your business grows, keep the single and the multi so you can do small run, very much like talking about that DTG, and keep working toward what your clients need and do that investigation, ask those questions, and make those plans. It's all about that business plan being part of what leads you there. If you don't know who you're serving, the equipment isn't going to be easy for you to figure out. Now, I'll try and make the rest of this fast. I know I'm talking fast already, but I know I'm taking up the time. The other thing I find people doing is they're skimping on tools that are not machines, right? So they're skimping on tools, they're skimping on services that are going to help them in other parts of their business. And embroiderers, we can kind of be bad about this. I think decorators in general, we think about making the cool thing about decorating a garment, because that's what we like. That's what we got into this for. That's what we enjoy. And we forget all this other stuff that is attached to it, or we don't expand into these other areas that are important to the business. So I'd say don't skimp on simple tools. If you have multiple machines in your shop, all the tools you need to work on those machines, the kind of things for basic maintenance and changing needles and stuff, should be at every station. Anyone has to walk across a shop 3 times a day to get the right screwdriver. That is a complete and total loss. It's bad for your throughput. Tools at all the stations, trimmers at all the stations, all the stabilizer at each place where people need to hoop garments. Don't skimp on the simple tools. It's just
I have to interrupt. You are so right about this. This is true in every type of decoration. I have been on so many production screen floors where somebody is wandering around. What are you looking for? 5-inch squeegee, and going to every station. Then he's going to the washout sink. It's like, oh my gosh, you know what squeegees cost? They're like $1.50 an inch.
Yeah.
I always tell people, if you have multiple operators, they need to have their own set of tools, their own squeegees, their own scoops, everything. And it's like a mechanic. They have their own set of tools, and you're going to make a not very big investment, and they're going to take care of their own tools. So that's my favorite suggestion you have of all your list here.
100%. And here's the other one that's funny. I've got one literally in my hand because this is how much I have one to hand at any place I reach. Trimmers. If anybody in an embroidery shop is walking around looking for trimmers, what the heck? Yes, I know people get their favorites. They get their own baby, the trimmer they love. I like these ones that are easily replaceable. I know that's not very friendly, but the truth of the matter is you drop them, the points get dull, they get junky. Just get more trimmers. I mean, that's just the case. You need these everywhere. And these are the very cheap ones. They actually work quite well. They got a nice fine point on them, and they're very flat, so you can get close to the garment. Trimmers should be everywhere. The tool, like I said, the proper screwdriver for changing the needle, for getting under the needle plate, those things should be everywhere, and it shouldn't be a question. Other stuff on that same kind of note, the other non-decoration equipment that still is about decoration to me, hooping stations. You were talking about wanting to get a tension meter for screens earlier. One of my big things, get hooping stations and tension gauges for your machines. Hooping stations are essentially jigs that help you hoop your garments straight and have positions where I can move essentially the back of the hoop that I'm going to snap into. I can put it in a location that actually has a number and a letter on a grid where I can write that into my job information and place it on the same garment, the same spot next time around. It makes it repeatable. It makes it simple. It's easier to hoop straight with a hooping board, a hooping station. We used to build our own. These days, there's no reason not to get one of the wonderful systems that is out there. It will absolutely save you time and energy. And especially if you're brand new to this, I used to flat hoop on tables. It's not pleasant. Don't flat hoop on the table if you don't have to. For most normal shirts and garments, hooping on a board that's going to align you to the shoulder seams is going to make it a lot easier for you. And another one that people kind of leave behind, and funny enough, when we talk about this, Terry always says that finishing, the last part of the thing, finishing, are those the people who are really kind of like the ambassadors for your shop, because they're going to have that last QC. Garment steamers for embroidery. You're going to have little hoop burns. You're going to have crinkles in the shirts. You're going to have stuff like you're going to use water-soluble toppings sometimes. A garment steamer is the solution to all of that. Get a good garment steamer. You'll be a lot happier if you do, so that you can do nice finish work, and you can get those hoop burns out. If you see those little hoop rings, using a garment steamer, old school Jiffy garment steamer with the T handle, we all know what it looks like. Get one of those. It's well worth the money to be able to have a really fine presentation. And also, when you do accidentally hoop a little hard, you get that hoop burn, steams it right out most of the time.
And while you're at it, if you have a DTG or DTF printer, get that steamer as well.
Yes, seriously, it's just worth it for burns and edges. A heat press too. You're right. You can also get a lot of use out of it. And in general, just steam your garments if you're doing something high end. Don't turn over something that's ugly and messed up and ruffled. Last but not least, kind of in that space, and I want to turn this over because Aaron's got his section as well. Job and management software. Don't forget that part of our equipment is just managing the shop, managing the jobs. So job management software, shop management software, where you can track information. CRM is separately consumer resource or customer resource management, but something where we can record information about those jobs and have it in perpetuity accessible to anybody who needs it. I know small shops, you may not need it when you first start out. You might be cool recording in some other fashion. That's fine. However, especially as you start to grow, it's so easy to lose track of things. Put them all in a centralized system, have them where they need to be able to bring things up at the drop. It makes you look like a superhero every time somebody says, "Oh, you remember we did that job last year?" That last year was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But they're going to say, "Remember that job we did last summer?" And you'll be able to pull it up and go, "Yep, here's the kind of garment you used. Here's the colors we had. Here's the sizing we did. Here's our position from my hooping station." It makes you look like a superhero. And on top of it, then you just don't lose things. You get in the habit of keeping stuff in that same kind of place. And I'll say, like I said, last but not least, we talk about expansion. If you're in the embroidery world, the heat press is the first thing you should always expand to, in my opinion. There's other kinds of things you might want to get into for printing, but all of them center around that heat press in one form or another, or can involve that heat press. Good solid heat press will get you a long ways, but I'm going to let that go from there. Heat press and cutter.
Yeah, we can get to heat presses, and we're gonna we're kind of making changes on the fly here, folks. So we've kind of
You
decided.
saw
based
Aaron
on
and
the-
I typing to each other while Aaron was talking.
I
So-
tried to keep it kind of short.
No, I think we did great because these are all really, really valuable points, right? You talk about
Yeah.
that. So I actually want to go grab something and bring it back over. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this and we're going to come back next week. So we
Okay.
said we're going to try to do 2 parts, but this is going to be 3 parts because
Okay.
yeah, we want to hit on sublimation. We want to hit on DTG.
Yeah.
That's good
ETF.
information.
Yeah, we've got lots of great information. And then I think we probably need to look at some of the other tools kind of in the wheelhouse. You know, Eric brought up a cutter here potentially.
Yeah.
You know, a laser, white toner, where does that fit, right? And things like that. So not that we need to talk about every single decoration method, but I agree with Eric. There's kind of a theme I feel from all of our points here of you're going to expand into something much quicker than you think, right? So go that extra mile. But why don't you guys just I want to just go grab one other little tool that just popped into my head that I'm like, I got to show people.
Sure.
This could be a game changer for them. So be right back.
Well, awesome. Because I had a comment about when you're
Sure.
talking about the CRM, the marketing, the e-commerce. We talked about it here before, Eric, where I get it. You're working out of your second bedroom and you print on Tuesday and Thursday nights and all day on Saturday. Try to build your business as if it's a legitimate full-time business, because you're having, once you make that move, you're reinventing everything. And I know it's a difficult thing, but try to think like you are a full-fledged making a profit and making a living business when you start out.
I fully agree. I mean, the best way also when people bring up on employees, if you have standard operating procedures for yourself, if you write those for yourself like you're a big business, when you bring an employee in, you can hand it over. You can train somebody. It's not hard. If you don't do that,
reading my book.
Yeah, I know, really. Aaron knows that. We talked about business planning.
Number
too.
8, systematic processes. Okay, sorry.
The art part of it is fantastic. The thing is, even if you're the kind of person who loves that the most, getting the other stuff out of the way, what it is not ignoring it, it's making it systematic so that it's second nature. Then you can get back to the creative stuff that feeds you if that's what your thing is.
Yep. Love it. All right. Well, I went and grabbed it. It was just around the corner. And you guys might recognize it. Anybody know what this is?
It's the Sheldon Cooper shirt folder.
Yep, the shirt folder, the manual shirt folder. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
why not? I mean, and by the way, Terry, when you said bagging machine, I almost lost it because we had a full folder and bagger in our shop. And what was always funny, and I don't want to say this, but it's been many years, so I think the NDA is all run out. Let's put it this way. That folder and bagger wasn't working a lot of the time, but boy, did the bosses love to turn around and go, and that's how we get all the professional folding and bagging. That folder and bagger right there can do this many shirts an hour. And I'm like, we're doing them all manually. The folder's not working.
Yeah, all you guys folding shirts, scatter.
Yeah.
Everybody run, drop that shirt, turn that machine on, get that compressor running.
But that little $20 investment right there, you know, if you're dealing like just a matter of like, yeah, you could probably fold it and maybe what, you know, but just folding it, like take it, put the shirt on there, and then take a little piece of tissue paper that's 8 by 10 and stick it in there before you fold it up. It gives it that much more, and there's not much cost in it. It looks much better. And it can even, like, if anybody has a mom like me that was grew up in the 40s and 50s, I don't know what it was about this thing for my mom. And I don't know if it was just because she grew up in the 40s and 50s. When she saw this in our basement, she was like, "Do you have anything else I can fold?" All of the inventory that we have on our shelves that was kind of like, not great, it all got folded up, right? And so if you're like, there's another thing, you can fold up your inventory and make it easier to grab. And so anyway, $20.
I'll say this: I'm not arguing against the printers fold. We all know if you're doing 500 screen print shirts, you're folding dozens and stacking them, and that's fine. But for anybody who's doing something higher end, and I know a lot of the embroidery shops, we're doing stuff that's higher end. We're expecting these things to be packaged. Lots of them are being resold. Steam and fold your stuff and make it nice. Price it in. It just is such a much better experience. Nobody wants to open a box and have just a wad of shirts and have to explain that. It needs to look good when it comes out of that box.
It's all about the presentation.
100%.
Yep. So those little things will make a big difference, and for sure. And like I said, I felt like the theme, even what we're probably going to talk about next week, you'll probably still see the same theme, right? Where Terry was talking about the 6-color, Eric's talking about the wider print field, right? And stuff like that. So Ramona had a few comments in here, Eric. I don't know if there's any of them that stand out to you that you want to grab. And then Susan's got a comment that we'll or question that we'll answer in just one second.
Yeah, let me grab a couple of them. Yeah, certainly. This is true. We were talking about the travel path for the technicians. Like, even when you're not remote, you want to be part of a travel path. Absolutely. She suggests finding a tech you can talk to and ask them about the machine you're looking at. Yeah, for sure. I will say there's a little home teamism. There's some homers out there where they love the machine that they work on. So talking to a tech is a good thing, especially if you have a local tech, because the other thing is, here's the deal. If that's a local tech and you don't have a lot of local techs and there's a machine they specialize in, that might be part of your decision-making process. You're like, well, I've got a couple of local techs. They work on these machines, and that's what I'm probably going to get because I know that they have parts and that they know how to work on them. That there's something to that. And
make friends with them. And you know, when they're working, doesn't hurt any to bring in a Danish and a coffee, you know. Hey, that's the guy that brought the Danish and the coffee when I was working on his machine.
Yeah,
huge. Yeah. No, always offer your techs a coffie while they're working.
They'll pick up the phone the next time you need them in a pinch for sure.
Exactly.
Like, oh, the coffee Danish, that was delicious.
Hello. That's the same with everybody. I mean, treat everybody like you'd want to be treated if you showed up on the job.
Absolutely.
For real.
Absolutely. Anything else in there, Eric?
Yeah, there's a couple quick things. I will say this, like you said about the 4-color, if you have a 4-color already, you're going to do fine. There's nothing saying you can't do work. Ramona says, not being sure where I was going with embroidery, I started with $1,000 machines and built from there. You can, and you can learn a lot about embroidery. I'm somebody who's worked with a lot of home embroiderers over my time, even before it was okay. Before we were doing this kind of third bedroom business was normal, the side hustle was normal. I made stuff for home embroiderers and got chastised by some of my peers because I was out there making stuff. They're like, oh, you're helping grandmas make doilies. I'm like, well, no, they got little businesses that they're running and I'm helping them do that. If you want to learn about thread and needles and fabric and how they go together with the stabilizer, that can all happen on a small machine. And in fact, I have a little bitty home machine that I play with for testing so I can talk about that stuff. That it's still what you have can help you. It's when you are intending, you're like, I know I'm going to be in production, then it's a good idea to plan for production. Yeah, that's the truth. Also, there's tons of people I know, they get a 5x7 home style machine from, Walmart. They bring it home and they start making some little stuff and it's cool. And then I'm like, man, what I really want to do is jackets. And then I'm like, well, yeah, you're pretty much out. Like that machine and that class of machine is not going to do a big sewing field, not going to do cylindrical hats, not going, like there's a lot of stuff it takes you out of. So that's why I say, think about going to a tubular machine. And by tubular, I mean one where the hoop clips in, where the cylinder arm is there, and you can put a finished garment around it. That's what that means, tubular.
I'm really fighting the temptation to say that's totally tubular, but
me too.
No. Embrace the cringe, lean into it. That is what we are here.
Hey, I'm a product of the 90s, people. Totally tubular was a thing.
Rad. Let's bring back rad. Why not?
All right. What else do we got here that we need to cover there, Eric? Anything
last
else?
thing, Ramona. Ramona's just hitting them out of the park today. I like this one too. She says, I'm a one-person multi-machine shop and have a full set of tools at all machine stations at every work table. And I also have a full set in my rolling cart. Man, she's got that backup set.
Yeah.
She is ready. She's probably got that trimmer on her belt right now.
Well,
but seriously, that it's absolutely worthwhile.
It is
just have the tools where you need them.
Because I actually in some of my seminars, I kind of make the comments / half joke. Anybody here ever spent any time running around their shop looking for a pair of scissors? Right. And everybody laughs because they know it's true. Right.
I'm not going to raise my hand, but absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, no lie. I can reach from my desk. Boom. Scissors.
Yeah.
You got multiple pairs from where I'm sitting right now. There is no place in this room I cannot reach and find the
scissors, reading glasses, whatever tools you need.
Everywhere I go.
Junior yellow legal pad.
Legal pad.
No, and that's really important. That's the funny thing is you don't think that's important until you are running around a shop looking for, like I said, the magic screwdriver, the one wrench you need to tighten things down. It's ridiculous.
And if you kept track of the time you spent doing that, you would just be floored. I can't believe that I'd literally spend 2 hours a week looking for something, and it's probably true. So
No, it's true. I mean, and that the funny one we found out too was when we were doing more things on paper than is done now. Now you see a lot of shops where they'll be either running on mobile or tablets, or they have a station set up with information right next to their computer. Back in the day when we used to always run around with job jackets, walking to the printer, you would be shocked the number of shops that were losing half a day walking back and forth to one centralized printer to get all the job information back in the day.
oh yeah.
I mean, now it's not the same. There's a lot of systems where people aren't doing that. But yeah, the walk into the printer asking for information that should have already been with the job was constant.
Well, I'm glad I'm not an actual production shop. I just have stuff to, keep up with trends. But so I'm down in my basement. This is where most of, if we do any production, it happens down here.
Yeah.
My sublimation printer up in my office, 2 stories up and on the second story of my house. So if I am doing any sublimation, I'm getting my exercise in, and you're exactly right. How much time do I spend trouncing up the stairs? Got to reprint that. Here we go.
You don't know how early I was on network printing. When we still had parallel port printers, I had network hubs for them because I was like, man, this is not going to happen. We are not running back and forth. We had a multi-building compound. You know how dumb it is to go to the front building to get something printed? That is the dumbest thing.
Yeah. Well, you know what I actually use nowadays, right? You can do the network printing, but in my house, it's hilarious. I use Chrome Remote Desktop. So I'll be down here in the studio and I'll remote into my computer upstairs, or I can do it from my phone or whatever. That little tool has been a massive game changer for me. I'm pretty tied into the Chrome world, so you have to kind of be that. But I mean, yeah, I can access any of my computers from anywhere as long as they're on from Chrome Remote Desktop.
Yep. Remote desktop, centralized file. So if you use OneDrive, whatever it is that you use, so that you're always have the same files everywhere you sit, all of that stuff is really important. Like I said, with the job management software, the stuff that you don't think to track, you're really confused about. People are like, oh man, all the time I spend in decoration or samples. And I'm like, you probably walked around and wasted more time than you did sampling that job. Also, it's not a waste since you really need to make sure you're doing it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, for real.
All right. Good stuff. All right, Susan, your question. Excellent question. And first and foremost, welcome to the regulators. You're now a regulator, so congratulations on that. I just came across this video. Where can I get part 1? This has been very enlightening. So you're here on our Facebook page, and you should be able to find it in the media folder, last week's episodes. You can also go to our YouTube channel, 2 Regular Guys, and find it there. Or best place is to go to 2regularguys.com. Now, it's not up yet, but it will be up soon this weekend. I'll get them all caught up so you can find all our past episodes there. 540 some odd. I didn't get the exact number, but 500.
Number 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't get number 1.
Yeah. So anyways, you can find them all there, and just tune in. If you go over to our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe over there, and you can hit the notifications. And every week we've got that happening. Thank you, Eric. 2 Regular Guys podcast over there. So
one of my favorite things ever, I've got a picture, and since you guys know I do the take up as well, one of my favorite pictures ever is I've got somebody where they mounted their phone to the head of their machine. And so it's sitting on top right over the tensioning system is their phone on a clamp, and it's me doing my show talking about it. Because I was like, that's multitasking for real. You're staring at your machine while he's looking up and down between the embroidery and me telling you how to do it.
Making money and getting educated at the same time.
We hear that all the time too, don't we, Terry? People like, oh yeah, we play the podcast version in our shop while we're working, that kind of thing.
All the time. Hey, if you're listening to this as podcast in your production facility, we'd love to hear from you. And send us a picture too.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
All right. So next week we will be back, and we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to talk about sublimation. We're going to talk about DTG and DTF. We're going to talk about heat presses, and we may even get into some other equipment too. So stay tuned for that. Let's talk about what's coming up on our schedules here. Eric, you want to start us off? I know I'm going out of order here, but you're our guest this week, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So start.
if you guys want to hear more about embroidery today, tune in at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And yes, Mountain Daylight is Terry always says, because I'm not part of Arizona where they've finally gotten rid of that. But tune in at 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time to the Take Up, and go to ericcampbell.com is an easy way to find it. You can get to my YouTube page and everything from there. A lot of folks like to watch on YouTube. Today's episode is number 189. And what I'm going to talk about today is actually fonts and typefaces. And what we're really going to get into is a little bit about how to handle fonts and typefaces, a little bit how to handle text, and why sometimes there's such a difficulty and a separation between embroidery fonts and graphic design, and what kind of we can do about that, what happens with that, and a little bit of history, as well as me just talking about some projects I've worked on. So you get some real world advice and some real world information about typography and font. So yeah, join me today, 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time, to share live. If you want to jump in, talk about it, it's going to be all about fonts, type, and text and embroidery.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, a quick question, Eric. You said
Yes.
episode 189. Now,
Yes.
I know you also had that other episode where you interviewed somebody, and that was episode 1 of that particular thing, but it was still the Take Up. How do we gauge how many episodes you've done? Terry and I are just trying to stay ahead of you. That's all.
Yeah, and how you keep gaining on us.
I'm not. I will never hit it. I can't be there. Plus, now I'm here too. Do I get to count those?
That's right. So, he's going to be 545 plus 190. Oh my gosh.
I am ahead because if I count those I've produced, maybe I am actually.
Exactly.
Everybody's got. I don't know. I think Aaron might have a speed because he's got like 3 others he's doing at any given time.
Sure enough.
Yeah. All right. Well, yes, there's plenty of me out in the world. But speaking of me out in the world, one place that I'd love to have you guys join us at is the OSG Facebook group. And it is called Fall in Love with Your Business. And if you'll go to facebook.com/groups, Fall in Love OSG, and you should be able to find all that. And, just it's a place that we've created, and we talk a lot of mindset stuff with encouragement, lifting each other up. So if you're facing some challenges, you need some advice on just running your business in general, or you want to celebrate successes, we love that. Come on over, and we want you to be part of that. So again, go over to Facebook and find us over there. As far as getting out on the road, I will be heading to Long Beach, California for the Graphics Pro Expo. That is happening June 13th through the 15th. And I will be out there teaching on the 15th, a seminar called How to Master Pricing for Profit. And that's happening at 11 a.m. over there in Long Beach. And it's about an hour-and-a-half program, and got really great feedback on that same program that we did in Irving earlier in the year for Graphics Pro. So I'm excited to talk to the folks out in on the West Coast there. And you can get to it by going to graphics-pro-expo.com. And you've got a link in the comments there of the YouTube and Facebook page to go directly to that training. You guys have probably heard me talking about it, and maybe you're tired of me talking about it, but it's not going to stop. So OSG is doing Fundamentals Live, and that is coming up on June 7th and 8th. I am just incredibly excited about it. This is going to be life-changing, game-changing for all of us involved. I've got people coming from as far away as San Diego, Nevada, Montana, South Dakota, Minnesota, all over the place to, just they want to be more fulfilled in their business. They want to kind of be more connected to their small business. And this is something that's never been done in our industry before, but we're really going to get people together. It's not a lecture. It's nothing like you've ever seen. We're actually going to basically break our businesses down to their foundation and then rebuild them and design them the way that we want our businesses to be, so we can fall in love with our business, right? I always talk about the fact that at the end of the day, I want to wake up in the morning and say, I get to run my business. But how often do we wake up in the morning and go, oh, I have to do these things, right? So we're going to redesign our businesses that way. So osg.link/funlive and reserve your seat. Be somebody that is going to come change your business. And I think even though we're going to be halfway through the year, people who are involved in this will have their best year ever. All right. Bold statement by me, but I'm willing to back that up. So I will put in the effort to make sure that that's true for you. And then last but not least, the paperback and ebook version of this book, The Fundamentals of Business Success, which is what we're going to base that retreat on. It is out there. It's available for purchase. And I'm already getting a ton of great feedback. I know Ramona's in here, and the feedback I got from Ramona still makes me a little bit misty-eyed. I just love that I was able to provide her a little bit of support through it. So you can check that out at osg.link/FBS. And you can tune right to fundamental number 8 and to go to systematic processes that we talked about today. There you go. So that's what I've got happening going on in my world. Terry, what about your world over there?
Yeah, I just finished up the Sir Speedy PIP show here in Phoenix yesterday, which was an awesome gathering. I'll be at the Apparel Decoration Summit in Nashville, June 3rd through 5th. That's a part of the Apparel List / Printing United Alliance.
Cool.
My next complete screen printing business course, I will be in Chicago with Atlas Screen Supply on June 8th through 9th. And watch for all my upcoming events at terrycombs.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, I know we're into bonus time, but we promised the secret sauce. So I'm going to put it out there, and I'll try to be fast. We know that try is very much in quotes. So here we go. You guys ready for the secret sauce?
Let's hear some secret sauce.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys. So for this week's secret sauce, I want to share some tips with you about how to make your offers less complex, right? How to make it, because when they're less complex, more people are going to understand, and you're going to be attracting more business. So this all came about when I was working on kind of the idea, what is it that we're trying to do with Fundamentals Live, which I just talked about earlier on the show there. And what came up was something a mentor had once told me, that when I shared what I was trying to do, this was when I was first starting our success group, they said, that sounds great. I don't understand. It's too complex. Right. And what was happening was I was trying to encompass everybody, right? I wanted to hug everybody. I wanted to, touch everybody I possibly could. I wanted to share all the things, right? My passion was there. You guys know that in your business, right? Your passion's there. You're really feeling that. And I just want to do as much as I can, right? That's the feeling we get. But the problem with that is that big, we're involved in it every day, but that big, like overwhelming, I'm doing everything kind of sensation, it becomes too much for people to sink their teeth into quickly, right? Think about how often your attention is stolen from you throughout the day. Do you really have the bandwidth to try to sink your teeth into this complex offer, even though it might be really valuable for you? So we're basically trying to gain people's attention amongst all the noise. And when we look at it, what really stands out is something that is clear and to the point, right? So when your ideal customers ask, what do you do? How do you answer that question, right? Some people might call that your elevator pitch, your call to action. But the reality is, how much effort have you put into making that more clear and more concise? And ultimately, it needs to be one simple statement that you can share over and over again. I read this the other day. I can't remember exactly where I read it from, but this really stood out to me. And somebody had mentioned that marketing is not saying 100 different things, right? Like, I got to get my marketing calendar, and there's going to be 365 days, 380 days, because I'm going to try to pack more in, right? Of different information. Ultimately, what marketing is saying the exact same thing 100 different times. Right. So we need to be able to deliver that offer in a single sentence in less than 15 seconds. Right. So if you can spark someone's interest in 15 seconds, then you have a wonderful offer. So how do we do this? Right. The first step is we have to say, well, who are our ideal customers? Right? Like, who are we talking to? Right. We can't be clear in what we're offering if we're trying to talk to everybody. Right. Because everybody has a little bit different needs. And so if we're trying to take care of everybody at once, we can't be very clear. But the good news is you can focus on that ideal customer. I like to go so far as to say, who's that one person that you would love to do business with every day? And if you focus on having a conversation with them, how do you get their attention? How do you give them an offer that they can't refuse? The good news is there's lots of people that are very similar to that out there. You're just not reaching them because you're not clear yet, right? And if that does not seem true, if you go, that this is crazy, I can't just focus on talking to one person because it's not getting me anywhere. Well, if that does feel true to you, then you're just talking to the wrong people. You're just swimming in the wrong pond, right? So how do we understand this? How do we figure this out? And the simple solution, it's not easy, but the simple solution is you have to put yourself in their shoes, right? Who are they specifically? Humans use generalizations to compartmentalize things in our conscious brain that can only handle one thing at a time, right? So we need to really get down to that very specific detail about who they are. And once we identify them and we clearly communicate with our ideal customers, we're going to be attracting more people who have similar needs, right? This is the good news we're trying to get to. It's just getting to that part is actually a little bit challenging. So the next part that you want to do after you've determined who your ideal customer is now you need to understand what their pain points and aspirations are. Right? What would cause them to want to do business with you? That's the pain point. And what do they want to achieve once they've done business with you? That's their aspiration. So there's 3 quick steps that we can take in this part of it. The first one is get very specific about that ideal customer as far as their demographic, right? Are they people like, well, I do business with men and women? No, I understand that. But this one ideal customer, if you had to pick one person, is that a man or a woman? What age bracket do they fall in? What makes them unique, right? So really start getting it boiled down as much as you can into that specific demographic. And then 2, determine what their pain point is. Why would they come give you money for what you do, right? That is the pain point that they have, right? They wouldn't hand over their hard-earned money to you if they didn't have a need that money was going to allow them to fill that need. And then number 3 is to figure out what their aspirations are. Once they do business with you, how do they want to feel afterwards, right? Are the aspirations just to get rid of the pain point, right? I don't know what to do. Maybe you're doing memorial products, right? I need something to commemorate my loved one that I can touch and feel. Beyond that, just take care of this for me, right? That could be what it is. Maybe it's to do some good for their community, right? So how do you envision them feeling after they do business with you? And then from that phase, then it's time to just simplify your service. And when I say simplify your service, this is the products and service, but knowing that people do business with you because of the product or service, it's not that, right? It's not the product or service that they do business with you because, like, for example, my family, we buy groceries at a specific store. And it's not because we can't find groceries elsewhere, right? It's because of their service, right? So this could include things like how you feel, right? Like the appearance. So there's the grocery store we go to, it's called Schnucks. And there's 2 Schnucks equal distance from our house. And one of them we never go to. I can't even hardly get my wife to walk into it. And we jokingly as a family call that one Dirty Schnucks. It's the exact same store. It just doesn't have that same feel, and I don't feel like the employees there act the same way. And maybe it is location, right? The service could be the location. Is it convenient? But understand what is the service that you're going to provide, and the products will come along with it. And then once you get all that together, right, you understand who they are, what their problems are, and what they aspire to feel after they're done. Then what your service is going to be that you offer them. Now you have all the ingredients to make your own secret sauce of your simplified offer, right? And the best way to do that is through being very specific and direct. I know we want to have fancy words and make people feel important and included, but when it comes to your offer, they have to be very specific. So if you find yourself in your offer using the word "and" a whole lot or very general statements, you got to go back to work. Got to go back and refine it, right? So what makes your services unique specifically? Can I be more clear on that? Specifically unique. So once you have that, right? Once you've worked on crafting that, you describe that service in a single sentence that you can deliver in 15 seconds about how you specifically relieve their pain points in your ideal customers. And armed with that information and some time to actually craft that message, you're going to start gaining people's attention much more quickly. So here's the little bonus segment, right? I'm going to save the crafting of that, right? So we kind of brought it to that point, but there's even more that I can give you. So stay tuned. My next secret sauce probably be in about a month from now, maybe or so. Stay tuned, and I will talk to you about how we craft that information. All right. So hopefully that gives you you got homework, and you got a month to get there, and we'll see you back on the next secret sauce.
Awesome. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I said I'd be quick, but as we knew, it wasn't going to be that quick. All right.
Well worth it. Well worth it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, you guys, this has been awesome. We've come to the close of another show. From all the people that have jumped in here and joined us and brought their comments. Ramona, like Eric said, you were bringing the fire today, so thank you very much. Yeah. Eric, thank you so much for being here, bringing in yours, and we're excited to have you back with us next week.
Thank you,
even though we're not going to talk to embroidery specifically, that's okay.
Believe it or not, done a couple of things besides embroidery.
Yeah, I did.
A couple of things.
Yeah,
I'm not pigeonholed.
Sorry, I don't mean to pigeonhole you, Eric. I apologize.
Mostly embroidery. Almost all embroidery. I have. What do I have? My 15 minutes of screen print. If it weren't for all the films I've printed, it would be 15 minutes of screen print.
Well, we appreciate you pushing those buttons and turning those knobs every week, Eric. And again, like Aaron said, thanks for being in front of the camera with us today.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Indeed.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. Well, as we talked earlier, next week is going to be part 3. If I knew then what I know now, and we will bring this little series to a close. We're working on some other stuff out there. We're efforting on some things. We're actually, I think I may have finally found somebody to talk to us about UV DTF. Nice. But I don't have that scheduled yet. So we're looking. But if you guys have other people that we need to be talking to, other ideas for shows, you don't get to 550 episodes without getting some help from the regulators. So it's time. We need your help.
Absolutely.
All right. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Eric Campbell. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the 2 regular guys.
Here we go. We're out.
Awesome.
Thank you for listening to 2 Regular Guys. Check out our website at 2regularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/2regularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/2regularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, 2regularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.